So thanks everyone for coming. If you could get settled in, we're going to start things up. And if we can roll the live stream, that would be great as well. So I'll turn it over to Ina to introduce this exciting evening.
Hi everyone, welcome to StoryCode Story Forum. So for those of you who participated in our epic story hack, if you're back here, raise your hand. All right. So you might have heard of us through our story hack or some other exciting source, but we're really psyched to have done that and to have these awesome people as part of our community. If you haven't already followed up to see what's going on, all you got to do is Google story hack. You'll find some awesome write-ups in the Washington Post and Forbes and some winner stuff. So we're really, really happy to host this community every month, and we do this story forum every month where we bring the best and the brightest, the most exciting things that are happening in the transmedia, immersive, cross-media world. For those of you who are new to this world, don't be intimidated. Everyone around you is happy to tell you anything you would like to know. We do range in terms of enthusiasts all the way to super duper professionals. And we're here to help your knowledge grow and to share our community with you. So thank you for coming. And those of you who braved the wait list, thank you. Our little plan worked out really well, which is, you come and we accommodate you. So I'm glad that those of you who came and had some patience were accommodated. So thanks again, and I will turn it over to Mike.
To Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry, to Matt. My apologies. Matt from the Film Society.
Thank you very much, guys, and welcome once again to the Film Society of Lincoln Center. My name is Matt Bolish. I work with our Convergence program here at Film Society, the fresh and new Transmedia initiative that we're launching here at Film Society, about 2 months old now. We are really excited to be partnered with StoryCode for all of their programs that we offer here at the Film Society. Couldn't be more excited about Guidestones and Punch Drunk and what we're going to hear about tonight. But I'd also like to kind of let you guys know about a Convergence event that will be happening on June 12th. It will be the launch of the Kill Screen Dialogues, launched in partnership with Kill Screen Magazine, in my opinion, one of the foremost publications on video game criticism and culture. The first dialogue will be a conversation with the editor and the founder, Jamin Warren, and Kelly Santiago, who created this amazing game, or produced an amazing game, called Flower and Journey. It's going to be an amazing evening, a lot of fun, and more information can be found about that and all of the Convergence programs on our website, filmlink.com. So I will not take up any more time. Welcome. Have a fantastic evening. Mr. Knowlton.
All right, thank you. So just a couple of specifics. The network name is Film Guest. There's no password. Please feel free to live tweet and share some of the awesome nuggets of information that you gleaned today. Our Twitter tag is StoryCodeOrg, and the hashtag is StoryCodeOrg as well. And I guess now we'll kick things off. So a couple months ago, I checked out Guidestones and was really blown away by it, and I reached out to Jay and his team and invited them to come here and to share some of their experience about creating this really interesting, innovative, interactive web series with us. So before I bring up Jay, I just wanted to give you a bit of a background on him. Jay is the writer and director of Guidestones, is an award-winning filmmaker who has contributed as a writer, director, producer, and cinematographer to over 15 feature films. He's the president of 3o'clock.tv, which is an entertainment production company that focuses on original, high-quality serialized content for distribution via the internet and mobile. 3 O'clock created Guidestones. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having us. And I have to say that Guidestones was created by 3 O'clock TV and another company called Authentic, and the CEO of Authentic, Jonas Diamond, is here, so I wish you'd offer some applause for him too. He needs the applause. So. Thanks for having us, Mike. It's really great to be here, and I just want to say one of the things that I'm really proud of about Guidestones, and Guidestones is essentially at its most basic a web series, and one of the things I'm really proud of about this is that it's like 3-minute episodes, and there's a real economy of storytelling, and it's breakneck pace, and I think it works really, really well, and unfortunately, as I was preparing for this, I realized that's the exact opposite of how I am in real life. and that you're going to have to suffer through my ramblings. I do know I only have an hour, so you'll be fortunate that it's at that point I'll be cut off, definitely. I just want to talk a little bit about Guidestones, what it is. Has anybody here actually seen any of Guidestones? Some of you, okay, good. So only some of you will be bored during this first part. Guidestones is a 50-episode web series, and Jonas and I both have a background in very traditional filmmaking, and about 5 or 6 years ago we started on this journey where we thought we wanted to reach audiences online. Of course, then we thought, it's the internet, you can talk directly to audiences, and you just build it, and it's excellent, and everybody's going to come, and of course nobody did. Nobody came, and we realized that there's much more to it than making short-form television and putting it on the web, that there were lots of other things that had to be done. So we spent years researching it, thinking about it, and trying different things out, and what we ended up doing is that we ended up building a unique model founded on a couple of principles. One is that we felt that we wanted to tell stories by professional storytellers, so really guide the audience, but we found that audiences really wanted to have some kind of participation, that they wanted to get involved in the storytelling, but that can be obviously very difficult in terms of how expensive filmmaking is and choosing all sorts of different paths. So we were trying to figure out how can we get audiences online watching, enjoying a story, but then being able to participate at the same time. And the other thing too, which is maybe the hardest thing, is that nobody wants to pay for content. So it's expensive to make this stuff, and nobody wants to pay for it. So those were our two principles. How do we build this? The other thing too that's important actually is that we wanted to make sure that people kept coming back time and time again, because at that time there was web series coming out, and you could see the first episode would get these like a whole whack of hits, and then the numbers would just die soon after. So how do you keep people coming back? So that was what our journey we set up. Now, Guidestones at its base is a story, and it's a story of, it's a very interesting story actually. You have to go back 30 years, and 30 years ago in a farmer's field in the southern United States in Georgia, somebody, nobody knows who, erected a Stonehenge-like structure, and on that structure in 8 languages they wrote 10 commandments for rebuilding civilization after the apocalypse. Now, they actually exist. If you want to Google it right now, the Guidestones exist. They're there. And so I was approached. I started researching these things. I found them. Who's heard of the Guidestones? Has anybody actually heard of those? Okay, so see, a lot of people haven't. And it's actually amazing because nobody in Georgia has heard of them either. But we, so what we did was we built the story around these university students who actually go out in search. It's a murder mystery. It's a thriller. They discover an unsolved murder, and it leads them to the Guidestones in a larger conspiracy. So, back to our founding principles. How do we get through what we were talking about in terms of the interaction? So, one of the things we did right away was we looked at the past. And I remember as a kid growing up, my father telling me these stories about going to the movie theater and seeing serialized films, and he loved that. And you would go, and before the feature, there'd be a short serial, and there'd be a cliffhanger, and the guy with the mustache and tying somebody to a train track, and there would be all these things that the protagonists had to get themselves out of. So we really took that on, and in our series, in Guidestones, there's a cliffhanger at the end of every single episode. So that is that hopefully takes care of how we get people coming back if the cliffhangers are interesting enough. The other thing too is how do you sell or how do you give it away for free? Hopefully doing something semi-decent and professional, and that's our goal or our way. The way we figure we to do it is through branding partners and a couple of other little things that I'll talk to you about on the way. So. I thought that since like cliffhangers are sort of the order of the day, I would start out just by showing you the first episode. It's 3 minutes long, and then take it from there.
See that?
There's words written on it in different languages. Trevor, I think it's a message toward the end of the model. My name's Sandy Rye. I've been living in Canada since I was a student now for 3 months. My course in journalism is stimulating and keeping me busy. Investigative reporting is my passion. Currently, I'm doing an assignment on Christian architecture. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of investigating yet. I'm also doing the assignment with a partner. His name is Trevor.
How you doing, Sandy?
I'm not sure what to think of Trevor. He doesn't take what he's doing very seriously.
Oh, shock. Another male white geezer. Yes, I saw that. No, I don't know what it was. What did you get?
Nothing. What did you get?
Nothing. Oh, wait. Look at that. Oh my God. Look at that. I think it's one of the geezers. That's the guy.
Harold X. Redman. It is him.
Look him up on your smartphone.
An apparition standing beside me. Do I take this seriously? As a future journalist, I feel compelled to keep this diary. I guess I am taking this seriously.
All right. Thanks. Thank you. So that's episode 1. So this is when we talk a little bit about the interactivity and this idea of being able to kind of control the story and then add some interactivity to it. So what we're trying to do here is gently push our audiences to do what the protagonist just did. So you can Google Harold X. Glendenning. And it probably comes right up because I've done this before. And then the first thing on Google is this thing. And then...
Good evening. I'm Gord Martin. Harold Glendenning, a part-time professor at Ryerson University, was found by a neighbor in what the neighbor describes as a despicable and unspeakable scene. Police will not comment on a possible motive for the killing, nor will they release any other details. But we will have those details for you as soon as they become available.
So that's what you find if you Google Harold X. Glendenning. So what we're doing here, and I'm not sure how to get this thing back up. Anyways. So, yeah, okay. I just want the branding to be right. We're all about branding at Guidestones. So The thing is that obviously, so there's this interactivity. It allows you to interact with the content in a way, and you can find stuff online. Now that's a really simple one, and we try to be simple early on, but it gets more and more complicated as you go along. And essentially what happens is that the protagonists use their devices to uncover these mysteries, and we've created this whole world underneath. So I think there's 40 or 50 extra websites that we've built. There's all this content. There's as much content hidden online as there is in the actual show, and it's a whole entire treasure hunt. So that's a really exciting part of it. It allows you to jump ahead of the protagonists, not too far, but it allows you to get involved, and sometimes you can even get a couple of episodes down as it gets on. So it's a simple example. One of the examples that I like to bring up is that later on there's one where a song plays at the end of the episode. And if you Shazam the song, you find out the name of the band. And if you Google the band, you'll find a MySpace page. Not that anybody uses MySpace anymore, but you'll find a MySpace page. And you'll go there, you'll find the band's page. There's a logo that keeps appearing. If you click on that logo, it opens up a thing that you can enter your email into. And you enter your email into it, and then it sends you an email, and in that there's a link, and that link takes you to a company page that's been mentioned throughout the show, and there's a phone number, and if you call that number, it'll give you the address to the place you need to go next. So it can get that's on the more complicated side of things. Try it right now. So now this other example that I just put up here also leads to another important thing in terms of what we tried to do in terms of using the internet, or what we think that the internet is good at, and that's blending fact and fiction. And that's something we did a lot of in the show. So there are lots of real elements like the Guidestones, and there are lots of fiction elements, and we built the two of them together really purposely so that, if you go and Google stuff and search things out, that there'll be plenty of stuff out there. That guy, that newscaster, has anybody seen that newscaster before? Of course not. He's Canadian. He's a famous Canadian. That's why you've never heard of him. So Gord Martineau, who did this news story, it's interesting when you show it to people in Canada, they automatically go, is this real? Anyways, because he's very convincing. He's been doing that for like 20 years. But that's a really important example of how we're trying to tie real people and real things into the actual story in order to blur the lines and make the possibilities for the audience to interact more and more. Also, the fact is that the show is a conspiracy. It unveils this conspiracy, and that's, I think, an important thing because that stuff really works well online. So that brings us to the important branding part of the equation. So all our branding is product integration, and actually let me say one other quick thing, an aside that I forgot to mention, is that another part of our revenue stream is that, song I was telling you about that shows up and you Shazam it, it's like that song is for sale. There's ringtones that characters that alert characters to clues, and those are for sale. So we have these other alternate revenue streams. We had a song written by Spencer Tweedy, son of Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. He wrote this really wicked song, which was our closing title song, but like that's for sale. So there's we're trying to integrate stuff into the actual story, stuff that the characters use, and sell that way. So we had 4 major sponsors in this, brand partners. We have Samsung, Carbon Clothing, Major League Baseball, and the Toronto Blue Jays, and a company called Pizza, which is like Canada's Domino's Pizza, basically. They're all across the country. So very simple. Carbon Clothing, the characters are wearing carbon throughout, so it's a pretty simple one. Samsung, we're using smartphone and their tab, using their Galaxy and their tab, and the way, they're really using them like the way Sherlock Holmes uses his hourglass. It's like they're really the window into the world, which is really interesting. And there's lots, you see everything as Samsung basically. And then there's Pizza, which is a really interesting example. Pizza was a tough one. They wanted to get involved in the project, and we're doing, as you can see, a sort of dark murder mystery. And Pizza's branding is like the most heinous orange you've ever seen. Like, it's just like, I mean, it's great. It's great as a brand icon, but it's like you can see a pizza from space. It is so orange and so bright, and so to work that in to the story was a challenge. But I actually think we did a really good job, and I think, in fact, all our branding fit in really, really well with everything that we did. So I want to show you episode 2 now, which has some of the branding. We introduced Toronto Blue Jays, who I think just this week actually beat the New York Yankees twice, and I think the Mets a couple of times, so the Mets fans can't hide, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. This is...
The apparition that appears in the photo next to me bears a striking resemblance to Harold X. London, whose photo hangs on the back wall of the church. When we Googled his name, we came up with a news story from a year ago. It's captivating, but it doesn't help me with my story in Christian architecture.
Good evening, I'm Gord Markle. Harold Glendenning, a part-time professor at Ryerson University, was found by a neighbor in what the neighbor describes as a despicable and unspeakable scene. Police will not comment on a possible motive for the killing, nor will they release any other details.
Yes, John, it is odd. Yes, it is intriguing. No, it has nothing to do with our assignment on Christian architecture.
Sandy, we're journalists. Come on. There's one rule in journalism, it's always follow the dead guy. This is a story that's following the
I'm
dead
not
guy.
aware of that rule.
I think it was Cronkite or Bernstein. You Matlock?
We could try interviewing that reporter from the city who covered Harold's murder. Gord Markham.
Yeah. Let's do it.
The police were being very tight-lipped about the whole thing, but one of our photographers did manage to get some still photographs. The only thing that we could learn was that the victim's name was Harold Glendenning, and that he'd been murdered in a botched holdup, but the rumor was he'd been decapitated.
That's quite a botched robbery.
Okay.
This is odd.
It's like a symbol. Yeah, cults. Which makes sense because most botched robberies and then the decapitation. Maybe Harold was killed in a cult murder.
You like goods?
Play baseball. It's a baseball team. You know baseball? So much baseball in India.
Yes. But if it's short, we can name it cricket. Good question. You make it.
Well, there's another way to follow a dead guy.
Harold Glendenning, you say you are in pain. Harold, we have friends who want to ask you some questions.
Sandy,
I'm Sandy.
There's someone else in the room. Someone else has to talk to you.
Not Harold?
mother.
My mother?
You see this dark. I think you must go to rest.
Why can't she she rest? Why can't she rest?
Some fine branding there for you. So one of the brand initiatives that we did, obviously the Jays are introduced in there. He's a fan. He goes on to be a fan, and it becomes important in terms of location because they go to Atlanta, the city where the Jays beat the Braves for the World Series. And also the Samsung stuff is starting to seep in there. But one of the things I really want to show you that I think is really cool that we did is this pizza initiative that we did. So I heard you all saw the pizza brand, the orange. That's about as big as we get. And again, we tried to start out big and then get smaller and more subtle. But if you go here, which I'm going to attempt to do, which I think is at about one. Oh, there it is. So PP2012Z, or Z, at the bottom, and there are 7 of these hidden throughout the series. And if you Google that, it will take you to this site, where there is some hidden pizza style content. So you can be a pizza. You're all now pizza insiders, even though none of you can get a pizza.
Think about something big. I think this is going to be the most interesting project that I've ever started. And the fact is I've never finished any project that I've ever started. For various reasons, but mostly just because they really weren't worth finishing. But this one is definitely worth it. I mean, I can tell it's got everything. It's got ghosts, it's got murder, it's got 2 fearless, intrepid reporters that will stop at nothing to uncover the truth. Well, occasionally we're going to stop for pizza, but that's only to regain our strength so that we can start uncovering the truth again. I remember my dad used to say, if you want to do something, do it right. And if you want to be something, be the best at it. My dad was always the best at what he did. Remember when I was a kid, he used to take me to the Jays game, and together we used to keep score, we used to follow every pitch, and he said, if you want to see the best, all you got to do is buy a ticket and observe. And the honest truth is, I got to be a better filmmaker. And I think Sandy can help me get there. I mean, she's smart, she's hardworking. I think I need to convince her that she's going to learn more on this project than she will in 10 years in the classroom. I really need her help on this. It's a good story. Gotta go. Jay's now an hour and over pizza.
Okay, so that leads me to distribution. We're doing something pretty unique on Guidestones with distribution, and it's been this ongoing experiment, but essentially we launched a couple of months ago, and we launched with a very unique method. So what we've done is that it's what we call our push system, and what we've created is you go to the website, guidestones.org, and you sign up with your email address. And then when you sign up, what happens is that we deliver emails with links to the episodes, and you watch them sort of as they happen in real time. So like if something happens at 9 o'clock in the morning to the characters, you'll get an email at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so each one of these things happen. If a couple things happen quickly, like if they have to travel from point A to point B, and we know that's a 2-hour drive, then there'll be 2 hours between the delivery. So this is a kind of unique thing. It takes about a month to do the whole thing. So you go, you sign up once. One of the things that's interesting about this delivery system is that it is evergreen. So, our saying is that it premieres everywhere all the time. So I could start it today and somebody else could start the journey 2 days from now. There are obviously some shortcomings to that as well, but we thought it was kind of a cool experiment in terms of seeing what people would do. Now, over the course of the first few weeks, a couple of months, we started getting tons of feedback, and the feedback was really, really, people were really passionate about giving us feedback, which is amazing. And one of the things we noticed, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but is that we started to find that lots of different people like it. Lots of different people, there are likes and dislikes of this delivery system. One, we found that youth, high school youth were really digging the show. They loved it. They couldn't believe that they could Google the stuff that was on the screen and then it was there. Like it blew their mind. So I was really excited actually, because I hadn't anticipated that anybody would be interested in that way of that age group. So I was like, okay, great. So we started doing focus groups just to talk to these kids and show them the stuff and get their feedback and see what was going on. And we started to notice, now it's very different for the different groups we talked to, but we started to find that this group doesn't use email as much as probably most of all of us use email. And we noticed that their communication was really happening on Facebook. And so we've actually, since we've started discovering this, have developed a way to do this push system through Facebook. So that's actually going to come out and be available within the next couple of weeks. That was a really interesting thing that we learned about that, especially about that demographic. One of the things, though, and personally for me, one of the most exciting bits of feedback I got was, I got some feedback from some older demographic, and in particular, I got an email from an octogenarian who said, I love this show. I watched your whole series. It was so amazing. It reminded me of the old serial movies I used to go and see in the theater when I was a kid. And I thought, all right, Dad, you taught me one thing. But so it's really cool. So we are getting lots of different people. One of the I would say downfalls, or not downfall, I don't want to say that. How do I put this? This is one of the conundrums. I got these two criticisms early on. One, there's too many emails coming too quickly, because there's 50 episodes, and we had a number of supplementals, which are hints along the way in between episodes. So we got that. And then the other criticism was that there's not enough episodes and they're not coming fast enough. So that sucked. So we lengthened the release, and we also created something else, because the people who I think were saying that it was coming too much were really busy people who didn't need extra emails in their inbox necessarily, loved the show, but we're having a hard time, we're struggling with that a little bit. So what we have now is we have what we call our linear version, which is the version that you can go, and Jonas earlier sort of phrased it this way when we were talking to Mike about how we were trying to be, and this is the worst thing you could possibly try to be, but everything to everybody. In terms of story, we're trying not to be everything to everybody, but we are in terms of our delivery system. And so what we're trying to do is create so that when you go to our site in the very near future, it'll be, you can do it through Facebook, you can do it through your email, and you can do it through a linear version, which is actually going to be on Hulu, which is another interesting story. So we're really trying to branch out, and we're seeing that as for some people think there's too many emails, and some people there aren't enough, and some people want to do it faster, and some people want to do it slower. It's just like you just can't please everybody, but we're trying to. Oh yeah. Also, actually, we're also going to be up on iTunes as well. So we're also going to have the option to own. So that's, the next phase. We're excited about this, bringing the whole system out. I want to take you to one last interactivity example, which was at the end of episode 2. The word that appears is Omphalos 66. So if you Google Omphalos 66, it takes you to, this is the first thing on Google, which is a website about Paul Omphalos, an architect. and there's all sorts of interesting stuff about him, and some of the stuff that he designed. And then there's this down in the sort of bottom right. You can see the emblem, which is the same emblem as seen on the murder site. So if you click on that, this actually takes you to a survey of this is a survey of a house in Toronto, actually. And if you look down at on the residency list, as you work your way down, I don't know if you can even read it up there, it's probably too small, but the last owner is Harold X. Glendenning. So it gives you the location of his, where he was murdered. And you can go visit that place. It's kind of a cool house. So I think that to finish it off, I am going to show you one last episode. And this episode is much later on. It's kind of a fun episode, and it gives you a little bit more of this idea of like Googling serial numbers and just give you a bit of a flavor of the show, because it actually, this episode takes place in India, because I guess I didn't mention India, but we traveled to India to shoot a whole sequence of this show. So we were kind of all over the place on it.
We found a series of numbers hidden in Harold's old hotel room. They seem to have no rhyme or reason.
That's a taste of India. The last thing I wanted to say is that, Mike, we really appreciate coming here. And one of the things that was also surprising about this is that we've really been embraced by the ARG community. And I got to be honest, I feel like a semi-fraud talking about the ARG community, because this was really meant to be, this came from really, I don't know if you want to call it a pure play, or if you want to call it something where, we were I was just making films and then trying to add this interactivity to it. And it ended up being really kind of a nice mesh, and I think it's, whatever, there's a bit of a bridge there somehow. I'm not sure exactly what it is, maybe you can tell me, but that's that. And if you want to go check it out, we'd love to have your feedback, because you guys are obviously like right at the cusp of what's going on, and we love having dialogue. So, go to guidestones.org and sign up and check it out and give us your feedback, because we actually change stuff based on our, people's feedback, especially intelligent feedback, because it is this giant experiment, and we're really trying to make it better and more interesting all along. So, thanks.
Cool. So we've got some time, about 5 minutes or so for questions. So I'll start off with one for you, which I'm interested in. The deal with Hulu and iTunes, was that something that you guys planned before you were, in pre-production, and was that kind of part of the plan all along in terms of repackaging the content, or was that something that kind of happened after you launched and you were kind of able to use the momentum? I'm just kind of curious how that came together.
There's a really good answer to that question, and I'm going to let Jonas Diamond answer it. So come on up, Jonas. Jonas is the whiz at this stuff, so I really want him to speak to it.
So, we'd always planned on doing 2 releases, the push version and the linear version.
Right.
We've had success with Hulu before and iTunes on some of our other properties, so it was kind of organic that it would end up there. But in the interim, we have been approached by YouTube as well, becoming a channel partner specifically for Guidestones. So I guess it was kind of magic. At the same time, we did have at least a foresight to kind of deliver it in different formats so that we could find ways to monetize it, because the push version, frankly, there isn't really any ways to make money in terms of, we're not looking to sell advertising against it or anything like that.
Right.
So that was our way of kind of how do we pay for this to make it sustainable in the future.
Interesting. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Katie, and I have a question about your genre. You didn't really speak about how you self-identify. You talk about cinema, you talk about interactivity. I see a very strong similarity to alternate reality games. And even though you don't have game mechanics, you don't have a means of winning, this idea of Easter eggs or embedded, hidden participation, to the point where it really follows through with that mystery and suspense. That's kind of how it's defined in the game industry, and I'm wondering if you were inspired by that or if you found these things sort of organically, and also if you identify as this genre, or if you feel that there's a similarity there.
Yeah, like I said, like in terms of the ARG community, I never really thought about it until we finished it. It was just this kind of attempt to get people interacting, and so I didn't use any kind of model. It all happened organically. In fact, one of the things that's kind of frustrating about this project when you talk about identifying is that it's like if we'd made a movie, it's like, in our trailer, we could just tell you the story. But in our trailer, it's like, you have to spend like a minute of the trailer explaining to people how to consume the thing. And I think that's probably a big problem that a lot of us have in this community, is that it's like, we've got this thing and we really want you to come and check it out, and it's really amazing, and people who get involved really love it, but it's like, but let me explain to you how it works first. So the thing was it took a long time to make, 50 episodes. It took close to 2.5 to 3 years just on Guidestones, plus a couple of years of rooting around trying to figure out the model beforehand. So like maybe 5 years, and in those 5 years between paying gigs, we sort of figured this out and tried to make it, and it became what it was, And like I said, it's evolving. We like the model, and we'll continue. We're going to start a second season very soon, and we're also really curious about taking other stories and taking them down this path as well. So any good ideas, just please let us know.
Yeah, I was going to ask if part of your model is to sell the engine to other filmmakers, and it sounds like you guys are investigating that.
Yes, it's for sale. Talk to me after.
Any other questions? Yeah.
No, go ahead. No, Jonas said something.
Just one other thing. I mean, we want it also to be accessible, so that's why you can see in the next episode, we kind of reveal what the protagonist discovers, so that if you don't want to actually do the heavy lifting, that we, as someone who just wants to watch a good story, can actually do that without having to go too deep. So it's, again, trying to be accessible for different audiences and seeing if that resonates.
Hi. Right here. Sorry. I was wondering, because you already told us how you bring people back, but because I hadn't seen it before, I was wondering, when you first launched your episodes, what did you do to advertise it or to get it out there before it became viral, and how much percentage of your budget would you say that went into that?
Not enough, but ultimately, the way that we want to drive audience, the push system is great, and we are doing the usual social media tricks and trying to keep a low-cost marketing campaign going, although we are actually now looking for some help in terms of, we're working with our brand sponsors as well to push it out through them, and using some of their traditional methods of advertising. But we really feel the way that will bring people to the more experimental version is through the more traditional version. So, there's lots of people on Hulu, there's lots of people on other platforms that we're going to be launching on, and hopefully that'll be the way where we can get some of that kind of leakage to the more, experimental version. So, it's a bit of the traditional, you need offline in order to bring them online, while at the same time, working with platforms that have huge audiences already and trying to harvest and co-opt that as much as possible.
Just a couple quick things. Pizza has been like this amazing supporter of ours throughout the whole project, and so a couple of cool initiatives that we're doing with them is we're doing a big contest where they're giving away a year's worth of pizza, and but the other thing that's really neat is that they have monitors in all of their stores across Canada, and they have a 30-second Guidestones commercial playing every 15 minutes in every one of their stores. And the Pizza giveaway is being focused totally towards their Facebook audience, which is like a couple 100,000 people. And so it's kind of interesting, we talk about this idea of trying to get away from the traditional structures of building content and getting it out to audiences, and this is the thing we've struggled with so long. And we find that the models we keep coming back to end up looking a lot like the old models. Like, you build something and you put it out on a distribution platform that has an audience. Now, in this case, our audience just happens to be kind of unusual. It's Pizza's Facebook audience, or it's, people who, the unsuspecting pizza consumer who just wants a slice of pizza and gets hit with Guidestones every, few minutes. And Samsung as well is also going to be pushing it out on their Facebook platform, which is like monstrous. Pardon? Oh, and they're giving away notes and stuff like that. So it's kind of a new way to reach an audience rather than on ABC at 9 o'clock or whatever. Although we do that too. As you can tell, we'll do anything. So it's just trying to find these audiences are it's like we're finding all these new audiences. They're kind of all over the place. If you look far enough and deep enough, you can keep finding them.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for presenting Guidestones, and check out guidestones.org.